Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco, Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. It's just Marco here once again, and I am sorry, but I just did not know what to review today. I tried and tried. I was going to do a couple of things. We didn't get to go to the Greek festival this weekend because, we were too busy processing what the evil people have been doing to us on our own property, our own house that we've rented for 34 years. This historic Civil War era house that was built in 1864. So, I just thought I should give you guys a little update because I did get a little update this morning that I thought was very juicy, very interesting. And I also wanted to take this time to talk about the neighbors because I think the other residents on Hilltop have something to say about this too. And I think just the content of their characters, I think that also should come into question here. I mean, not question, but, get talked about. It's not just me living on this road. It's not just our family. It's other families, other people, other children, other women, other men. Lots of other people who deserve the right to live here on this historic property. So, first, the update. So, what happened was one of the letters that I sent out, because my friend who lives in Kentucky, he says that AutoZone wanted to build a building on his property or on a house he was renting, and he wrote a bunch of letters and got it thrown away. And so he encouraged me to do the same thing, and I did, and the Department of Development contacted me this morning. And it was really funny because it was right in the middle of me eating breakfast, too. Just like when they told us about the inspection that they wanted to do before they kicked us out for no reason. So she said that she legally couldn't do anything about the house. She said something like, we need to talk to zoning or something like that. But what was funny was that she said that our property, 777 Hilltop Road, she said our property is not listed as having an owner. So, that's pretty weird. It's pretty interesting. She said on the official files, on the official records, there is no owner for our house. No listed owner. The people who actually, quote-unquote, own this property, they should be listed as the owners of this house. But they're not. And so, what I think they're doing, and what Safi thinks they're doing, is that they have not listed these properties and they have not put themselves as the owners of these properties so that they don't have to pay taxes on them. What do you guys think about that? Yeah, that's right. And so she was very weirded out by that. She said that the post office recognizes this address, but she said that there is no current owner listed for the property. So, anyways, now for the neighbors. So she gave me 2 numbers. She said to talk to lawyers, and she said to talk to Department of Zoning for our area. So anyways, the first neighbor I'd like to talk about is Xenia. And I don't know if she'd like me to say her name. I don't really care, frankly, because I'm not saying anything bad about her at all, and so there's really no issue for me to be afraid of saying her name. Obviously, she was my girlfriend for a short period of time when she was living here, and she lived all the way at the end of the street where the bus would turn around by a barn. And she lived in a very beautiful house, and of course, I talked about it in my book. I brought her over here, and we watched Psycho, and we ate lunch, and we built a model together, and she was just such an amazing person. And they ended up... Okay, well, I'll just go through the neighbors and then talk about the houses, what they did to them. So, next door to us, there used to be 2 houses. One of them it got really messed up because the people who lived there, they smoked all the time. And so that place kind of sucked. They never even had anyone rent it after those people left or died. So that house was like, it was pretty much unlivable because people smoked in there. Ew. And then the house right next to us, first off, there were people who lived there, and they were kind of weird because, like, they would park their cars in the yard all the time. Like, they'd have all these cars parked in the yard, and it was always like we'd see the cars all the time when we took home movies and things. I don't know much about them because I never really met them or anything. But after they moved out, that girl moved in who lived next door, the one who I met while I was having a picnic. And she was pretty nice, she was pretty nice. And it was just her and her mom, and something very sad ended up happening where her mom ended up dying on New Year's Day. And on New Year's Day, I remember looking out the window and seeing that whole scene next door and seeing her mother being wheeled away. And I thought that was pretty sad. And her mom was a pretty interesting character, to say the least. She was a smoker too, and one of the things that she did was she said that their cat had died, and she said, "I'll pay you guys each $1 if you dig a hole and bury the cat." I thought that was pretty funny. And but just in general, we never really had any problems with them. They were all very nice. It was cool to live next to someone who went to school with me again, because usually it's just me around here, and then all the other people would live in these shitty modern neighborhoods in the modern houses with no basements in a tornado-prone area. In fact, if you guys don't know, in 2019, we had 3 tornadoes at once in our area, and it was so bad with people's ignorance around here that the weatherman, he interrupted people, and he got complaints from people that he was interrupting the Bachelor or the Bachelorette, and he went on a rant to people who live around here, because it's like, why aren't you taking this seriously? And the tornadoes ended up wiping out multiple buildings, like doing huge damage, completely destroyed certain buildings in our community. And people around here don't take it seriously because they don't have any basements. Because the people who own the properties, they don't want to put basements in because that's too much work. And so that's the girl neighbor. And what ended up happening was she moved out after that. And after that, they literally just let the property sit there and go to waste. Like, I would see people drive in the driveway sometimes and just sit there or something. Who knows? They went inside the basement that they had because they had a basement, and they did all some weird things. Other than that, didn't really just let the property go to waste. And it's too bad because they had a basketball court too. So next, there's another house it's still there. It's a very, very beautiful house. Very beautiful. And people live there now. Of course, they're going to move out because of these greedy piece of shit developers who have no right to take away our homes. And they were very nice as well. They had dogs, and they were really cool. We didn't really talk to them much, but they were cool. And one time there was like a flood, because anytime it rains too, it floods our street. And the rain is just so much rain, it floods everywhere. That's another reason why you wouldn't want to live on a development on this property, is that you're going to have trouble going to work because of the rain and stuff like that, the flooding. So we had met them when we drove to that puddle, that huge puddle in the road, and they seemed pretty cool. But before they lived there was this other family there, and they were not very cool. They were these redneck hillbillies, and they had this mother who was like, she was a very Yeah, she kind of looked like Susan Sarandon if Susan Sarandon played like the most evil role in her whole career. And she had like this 1960s style haircut where it was like curly, like that little curl, that wavy hair. And those kids, at first, they came over here and they seemed really nice, although some of them, they didn't like to wear shirts because they're such hillbillies. And they came over here and they all kind of talked like this. And they were like, Marco, you run weird. You run with your feet at angles. And that's not how you run. You should have your feet straight when you run. And, Marco, would you like me to help you fix the treehouse? And so, basically, these kids came over and they helped fix the treehouse, along with this other group of kids who I'll talk about. And at first, I thought they were pretty cool. And I kept on saying, thank you, thank you, thank you. But then, over time, their real side started to come out because they would start to bully me and they would say nasty things, nasty things. And we would play sports and they basically take any opportunity to physically abuse me. And, it's not like I care, but, they're just a couple of shitheads, to be quite honest. And, we play basketball, we would play baseball kind of thing, type of game on the yard next door. And eventually what happened was I did something very dumb. And I let them come into the house. And I said, we should move all of my stuff in my old room. All my posters, my action figures, all my things. We should move those out to the treehouse. I don't know what the fuck I was thinking. And my mom should have been like, damn, you're not doing that at all. Get out of here. And so what they did was they took all my stuff and they just threw it all over the place. And so all my action figures disappeared. They went to waste. All the posters got ruined outside because I had let these fucking redneck hillbillies come in. And then I let them borrow like a movie and they never returned it. And then I think they even stole my my PS Plus, I don't know, this little handheld game system. They stole it. And then what happened was my mom, she noticed that these things were stolen. And so what happened is that during school, some of these rednecks stayed home and they came into our house without us knowing, without even my mom knowing, and they stole stuff of mine. And we went over to their house, although my mom, she was reluctant. She just said, I'll buy you those things again. It's like, no, that's not acceptable. So we went over to their house, and I basically gave their mom a list. And then my mom said that if you don't give these things back, we're calling the police. And it was funny because she was like, okay. And then never gave anything back. And eventually they moved out. So who knows what happened to those redneck losers. And then there was this other family that lived in on the house on the corner. And they were pretty nice at first, but they turned out bad too. They did the same things that those rednecks did a little bit. They were just sort of tamer versions of those rednecks. And they seemed really cool at first, though. Like, I really liked them at first. And I remember the first time they came over by the gate and they asked to play with me. And I said, no, I have to go to a 4-H picnic. And so then they came over the next day. We played, we hung out, we did homework together. They helped with the treehouse. They were the ones who brought those rednecks over. They really wanted to help me fix up my treehouse so that I could have a Halloween party again after not having one for a couple of years. And we would do all sorts of things. We would mess around in the front yard and we'd chase each other. We'd ride around in the wheelbarrow and we'd do all sorts of things. And one of the things that we did was we got a bunch of treats. We created like a list like candy, chips, soda, and we got all this stuff, and we just sat in my treehouse and we ate the stuff, and we did that. And then one of the bad things was that the main guy who was closest to my age, he took my video camera from me and he started filming things and filming me, and it was so weird. It was like, the sad thing about those tapes is that my dad used to tell me, as I said before, that these tapes are very expensive. And so I would just tape over stuff when I was done with the tape I had already taped. And so we were taping over that stuff with this meaningless playing that we would do in my yard. And the main guy, he went over and he filmed himself taking a wee-wee in my treehouse. Don't worry, he did not film any, junk or anything, but he just filmed himself going to the bathroom in my treehouse. And it was like, what the fuck? Like, this is really weird. And then the next thing that happened was that they kept on asking me to get quote-unquote groceries. They kept on asking me to get candy and shit and chips, because I think they were poor. And so one time the guy came over and he said, Marco, if you guys don't get the groceries this week, we're going to get into a fight. And then basically after that, I stopped hanging out with them. And I said, oh, okay, fuck you. And I sat in my house, and I remembered that, we locked the door. I was playing Toy Story 3, the video game. And they kept on looking around, and they were like, Marco! And they kept on knocking on the door. And then they were like, he's what's he doing in there? He's playing a game. He's playing a game. I can see it through the window. Marco! And they kept on bothering me. And finally, one day, I talked with them and played with them a little bit. And the guy said he was just kidding around about the fighting. And I actually loaned him a movie, and he did give it back. So they were a nicer family in general. And of course, I played sports with them too. And that was the only good thing, was that it was cool how, I didn't really go to the gym at that point. So I thought it was fun that, I could play sports with these guys, because I didn't have any people to play them with at my house or anywhere else. So I played with them as much as possible. And then they moved out. And it was weird, because I would see this guy all the time in school after that, in high school. And I would walk by him, and he acted like I didn't exist for some reason. It was very weird. So anyways, that is the story of our neighbors. And we have another neighbor who I went to school with, and he was very, very cool. But he lived down this other road, where it was like this other road that went down, and it was like an off-road. It was really weird. There's just like one house at the end of this road, kinda. And he was very cool, and he was very nice and friendly. And he, of course, moved out after high school. And we talked to them about, this property and things. And, we talked about, and they said that the landlords, that they would harass this neighbor, and that he would drive on the road with his mom, and the landlord would see them, and he would try to run them off the road and harass them in his car. And they would just speed, tailgate them, honk at them, and try to run these people off the road. And eventually I did find out this guy, he was gay. And so I think that the landlord was targeting this neighbor based on his sexual orientation, probably other things too that I don't know. And we talked about the shooting too the landlords were doing, illegally shooting guns on the property, just late at night, very, very disruptive to our sleep, to our lives, to our schedule. Very, very strange behavior from so-called heroes of our community. What a joke. So another neighbor who I kind of showed in the other yard video, I don't think he lives there anymore. I think his son does, but his father, he was very, very cool. Because one of the things that he would do is that on 4th of July, he would do his own fireworks show, and it was the coolest fireworks show ever. It was very, very loud and scary, but it was very cool at the same time. I looked forward to it every year. And then eventually, I guess he died. One of the cool things that they did, that family did, which is why I think they're so cool, is that they bought their house. They didn't rent it. They bought it somehow, and the landlord, they didn't like that. And so what they did was they started trying to purposefully harass these people into moving off of their property. And so they purposefully built a farm field right next to their house on the right. And then they purposefully put a cow pen right next to them on the other side. And so basically that was all an attempt to harass this family off of their own property that they bought fair and square. And so, this is the type of people that we're dealing with here. And so I'd like to talk about that too. So, anyways, that is the story of the residents on Hilltop Road. This is a big story, isn't it? I mean, this could really be a movie. This could be a movie made by, Steven Spielberg. So, please like this video, comment, tell me what you think about all this stuff, and then please subscribe to this channel if you'd like to see more updates about my house that we have rented for 34 years. And let me tell you something. If I can, and when I'm going to keep this house, I'm going to put a big sign up on the house. And it's going to say, "We ain't going nowhere." That's what it's going to fucking say. So goodbye, everybody. See you soon.